Morning. We will call to order the regular board meeting for Western Municipal Water District at 9:30 on April 15th, 2026. And may we have roll call, please?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Gardner,
I am here.
Director Torres,
Present.
Director Denstedt, Director Risby.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, President Roten.
And I also am here. Good morning.
Good morning. President Roten, you do have a quorum today.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite Candy Judd up to the podium to lead us in the flag salute, Director of Human Resources in the Human Resources Department.
Good morning and happy tax day. I would be remiss if I didn't say that, right? I'm pleased to lead you in the pledge, but before we get started with that, I have been your HR director for 9 years, 10 months, and 7 days. And after today, the countdown is on 71 calendar days, and I retire from this position. So I've had a pleasure of serving in this position, and I look forward to the next journey that I will move on to, and I will leave you in good hands, I'm sure, as we select a new Director of Human Resources coming up. So with that, hand over your heart, and ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was pretty good for a pledge.
Yeah, thank you, Candy, and we will miss you. And we appreciate all that you have done while you've been here. Yeah, very much.
You still got a lot of work to do, don't
I know, I get it. Okay, do we have any public comments this morning?
We do not.
All right, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. Item 5A through D. Does anyone want to pull or ask a question on any item?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can go ahead and vote.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Torres,
Yes.
Director Denstedt,
Aye.
Director Risby,
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Mr. Miller, any items to be added to the agenda?
There's nothing to add today.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, action agenda A. Approve the Blackburn Water Pipeline Reimbursement Agreement with Pulte Home Company LLC for the High Grove 3 development.
All right, Derek presented this to the engineering committee. We had a nice discussion about that, so we're bringing it to the board today. So Derek, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, directors. This is regarding a development in the El Sobrante area of Riverside Retail Distribution System. The board is being asked to authorize the general manager to be able to execute a reimbursement agreement with Pulte Home Company, LLC, for the design and construction of the Blackburn Water Pipeline in connection with Highland Grove 3 development. Highland Grove 3 consists of 163 single-family residential lots located in higher elevation portion of our Riverside service area. Current hydraulic modeling shows that the ultimate build-out water pressure in that area will fall below Western Water's minimum standards without additional infrastructure. The solution identified in our facilities master plan is to upgrade an existing 6-inch pipeline along Blackburn Road into a larger transmission line connecting the 1650 and the 1550 pressure zones. We are calling this the Blackburn line. Rather than Western Water building this line on its own schedule, we have structured an arrangement with Pulte where they will design, permit, and construct the line as part of their development, and Western Water will reimburse eligible cost up to $15,540,000. In exchange, Western Water receives full ownership of the completed pipeline, all associated easements, and a dedicated future pump station site at no acquisition cost. The reimbursement will be funded from the added facility charge reserve of the Riverside Water Fund, which has sufficient funds available. And I might note that this particular fund is funded by capacity fees, so this is the way that we apportion cost among all of the larger regional beneficiaries. So each service connects, they pay a capacity fee, and in that way, they're paying back that approximately 15 million along with other infrastructure. So in this way, it's apportioned according to beneficiaries. Pulte bears all construction risks, schedule risk, and CEQA responsibility. Our exposure is capped at a maximum reimbursement amount, and we have audit rights, monthly billing review, and retention provisions built into the agreement. For any higher elevation lots that don't meet the pressure standards below the before the Blackburn line is complete, Pulte will install temporary booster pumps at their own expense and convert those homes to the higher pressure zone once the permanent system is installed online. An added community benefit is that the existing residents in Citrus Heights 2, which currently experience marginal pressure, will also see improved service once the line is complete. I'm asking the board to authorize the general manager to execute this agreement as presented in the staff letter. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Do we have any public comments on this item? I'm sorry, Mike,
Go ahead.
1 second. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay.
I would move approval.
Oh,
Second.
okay, I thought you were going to have a question.
No.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I think we're ready for the vote.
Director Gardner.
Aye.
Director Torres.
Yes.
Director Dinstedt. Director Risby.
Yes.
President Roten.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Derek. We'll move on to item B, adopt a resolution in support of a proposed boundary adjustment to detach the Rock Mountain Service Area from Western Municipal Water District and concurrently annex the same to Eastern Municipal Water District and Fallbrook Public Utility District.
So because of timing, we're bringing this one straight to the board. Tim gave you a heads up that this issue would be coming to the board, so Tim's gonna walk us through it.
So we have a map up on the screen. Good morning. Western Municipal Water District serves the Rock Mountain Service Area, which encompasses about 1,400 acres. It is sparsely populated, primarily agricultural, and classified by the Riverside Local Agency Formation Commission as uninhabited with fewer than 12 registered voters. You can see on the screen, it's on the left-hand side and called out. Today we're talking about the Rock Mountain Service Area, pretty much in the center of the screen. It is in the southernmost edge of Board Division 3. Although Rock Mountain lies within Western Water's sphere of influence, both Fallbrook Public Utilities District and Western Water provide limited retail water service in the area. Fallbrook Public Utilities serves a single parcel under a three-party agreement with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and Western Water. Western Water, which lacks significant infrastructure in the area, provides service to 3 connections serving 2 property owners under an interagency agreement with Rancho California Water District executed in January of 2005. Both Eastern Municipal Water District and Western Municipal Water District, along with Rancho California Water District and Fallbrook Public Utilities, have collaborated to evaluate long-term service options for the Rock Mountain service area. The agencies have determined that the most effective solution for property owners is to pursue a reorganization that would detach the area from Western and annex it into Eastern's wholesale service area and Fallbrook Public Utilities retail service boundaries. Rancho California Water District has agreed to implement a new interagency agreement with Fallbrook with similar terms to its agreement with Western. Eastern has agreed to lead the joint effort through the LAFCO process and will submit the formal application. Eastern and Western will share LAFCO-related costs equally. The application requires a resolution or letter of support from all participating agencies, Eastern, Fallbrook, and Western. The process is expected to take approximately 12 months from the date of application submittal. Prior to submission, Western and Fallbrook will jointly prepare and distribute outreach materials to each of the property owners. So again, it's required for the LAFCO process. This is simply just a resolution of support. We'll have to engage with LAFCO in that process before any determination can be made. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions?
Move approval.
Okay, go ahead, and I just have a quick question.
So my comment is this. Our counterparts over at Eastern and I have had several conversations about doing line cleanups. That there are several different areas, this just happens to be the first one that come up. We're gonna talk about some other boundary adjustments in the future that we're looking at, just to make it easier for staff and easier for development to progress, to know which water agency it is, because there's kind of a jig-jag and a puzzle piece and all kinds of different things. So I think this is really beneficial for us. I think this is beneficial for the customers, to take care of them and to make sure that they have continuous service. And this is all done in cooperation with each other, just to make things easier, better, faster, smoother, more efficient. And so I fully support this, and I fully support all of the other discussions that we've had. We obviously have talked about this in our 2x2 with Eastern on a number of occasions, and all of it has been very easy to do. So it really comes down to what makes most sense. So,
Maybe not as easy.
but,
Staff.
You didn't just start drawing maps and?
right, no, but I'm saying, there's no hostility in this. It's not like we're doing some crazy hostile takeover and doing anything like that. It's all within agreements, and we're trying to make this transition as smooth as we possibly can, and what makes the most sense. And
As smooth as these lines?
yeah, right, so, and obviously there's challenges for engineering to make sure that we've got the infrastructure in, or what our plans are, and how we're developing and doing areas, and what our build-outs are, and those things. But, ultimately, I think this is just a benefit all the way around, and I fully support taking this action. So if we don't have a motion already,
We do have a motion, but we are looking for a second.
I will do the second.
Were there other comments or questions?
Just wanted to say that this has been discussed in our committee meetings, and I'm looking forward to doing this.
Okay. I just had a clarification question. So the big blue area without the black stripes is Westerns? Okay.
Yeah, that's our.
And then the ones with the stripes were Westerns, but that's what's going to become Eastern and Fallbrook?
If the LAFCO
If-
process moves forward.
Our
correctly.
goal
Yes.
is, okay,
They'll become Eastern,
they'll become Eastern,
become
okay, that's
Eastern.
what I thought.
and
But
then they may have a sub-agency that serves them,
serves them,
such as
okay.
Fallbrook or Rainbow.
Okay,
So for clarification, we are only talking about the Rock Mountain
Yeah.
piece today.
So we're showing
Okay.
both of those areas,
Oh,
Rainbow and
oh,
Rock
I
Mountain.
see,
We're only
okay.
talking about the one on the
on the
left.
left,
left.
okay, okay, got
Those
it,
lines are smooth.
okay.
I don't remember what the engineering term director used, jigger-jagger,
Yeah.
jiggery-jaggery. I think it's a surveying term.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it,
Before drones.
okay. All right, I get it now. I'm more clear. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did I already asked for public comment?
You did not, but we have none.
Okay. We may vote, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, I am ready. Director Gardner.
Aye.
Director Torres.
Yes.
Director Dinstedt.
Aye.
Director Risby.
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Jig-jag, sorry. I didn't have that.
Okay. Moving on to item 8, reports, general counsel report. Do we have one today?
Morning. No, thank you.
No?
Yeah,
Okay,
no, thank you.
thank you. And general manager and staff reports. Item 1, general manager's
Yeah,
report.
we've got a couple. Just some of my activities. I appreciate Director Roten sticking around. We had kind of a fun thing. Congressman Takano called Michael,
Yeah.
and said, hey, I want to come and deliver a check for you. And it'd be great if we could take a picture. So that's right, you were here, you stayed too. So that was great. We don't get that very often, to have a congressman drop off $1 million.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was legit. He just didn't pull it out of his bank account. Yeah, it was a check for the grant funding that he worked really hard to get for us, and we're super appreciative. And I really appreciate the board being here to show that, because as an elected, I think it's really important for our electeds to be there and be present with him. And I think the conversation amongst staff was also how appreciative we are of how he's kind of embraced water issues. I think when he first started, it wasn't high on his priority list, and now he's really just evolved on his own that water is really important. So we really like his leadership role he's taking in water. I want to thank the board. We had a great workshop, a strategic planning workshop. It was long. I appreciate your patience. We had lots to say. The EMT worked really hard on that. And we worked really hard on the presentation and how we're going to try and tell the story with the board. And so I was really happy with the way it came out. I hope the board was happy. We listened very carefully. We've had a lot of conversations about, there weren't very many comments from the board to change things, but we listened really carefully to all the comments. And it's stimulated some conversations. So that was really good. Our next step is, we're going to continue to work with our consultant. We're going back to the EMT to talk about some, little changes that we might make. And then we're excited to go and talk to the WMT about it, because we certainly want them to be understanding why everything's in there and, what's changing. And so that'll be the next step. And then I've put it on the board calendar for June 3rd to bring it back for receive and file with the board. If anything big changes, we can obviously have that discussion. If I think it changes significantly where I'm like, we should really go back to the board first before we ask them to receive this, I don't anticipate that, but I'm looking at June 3rd to come back. Director Rizvi, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, good question. So in case anything changes, we meet again, we have another workshop? In case something.
So there's, obviously, we would like to get this done.
Absolutely.
There's no, driver on the calendar, except that the other thing we're going to do on June 3rd, assuming things go well in the board budget workshops, we'll be presenting the budget.
Okay.
Also for approval on the same day. So the strategic priorities and vision are leading into
Should
the
come
budget
first before the-
asks.
yeah.
So I think it really would be nice to, kind of approve and close the story on our strategic planning, because those ideas are incorporated into the budget. So it'd be nice to have it all together on the same day. So that's the goal. Let's see, activities, recent meetings and things. Director Denstead and I think, exceeded expectations by everyone and spent over an hour with the Rancho Finance Committee, giving an update on Western activities and Met activities. So their board is very engaged. They have several board members that were general managers, before they were board members, so they get all these issues. So that's the only reason we were there. We had 15 minutes of material and 45 minutes of questions. But it was really good. I think that went very well. I've been kind of busy on continuing our California Water for All and preparing for the advisory committee meetings. So I've been speaking with Contra Costa Water District to get them more engaged on some of these statewide issues. Had a great conversation with their board member. Is a little bit, let me see how I want to do this. Talk with Paul Cook, GM at IRWD, talking about that. One of the challenges that Sarah and I are having right now is we had all this momentum with California Water for All and SB 72 in our outreach campaign, and the funding that was supporting the outreach campaign that all stopped with SB 72 getting completed. We're getting requests from other agencies. It's like, we want the momentum to continue on that outreach campaign. and as part, to support the advisory committee and to support the California Water Plan. So Paul Cook, who's the vice president at CMUA, and I are talking about how to fund that and how to keep that momentum going. And so more to come on that. Have met a couple times with Joel Metzger from DWR, trying to plan out the advisory committee first meeting, which is going to be a 2-day meeting on the 13th and 14th of May. So we're working hard on, he's working really hard on that. He's calling me to get some input on key topics and, you know, kind of the storytelling, really of how SB 72 got started and why. And so that's really great. We're getting the phone call to do that. It's really good to be involved. As part of that kind of bigger picture kickoff, I was invited to be on Secretary Crowfoot's video series, California's Water Future, a new state water plan to secure water in a hotter, drier climate. So I did that last week. About 500 participants, which is pretty big for what we're used to dealing with, but really good conversation, and I think we sent out a link. You can still watch that if you want to see a tape of that. On more boundary issues, we've been meeting with Rainbow Municipal Water District. I know you said it's really easy to do this, but there are a lot of issues, technical issues, infrastructure issues, changing over to another agency. They're gonna take over pipes, pumps, and fire suppression requirements from us. And so there's a lot of work that goes into that. And there's some investment that's gonna be required to do that. You know, they're saying what we would say. Oh, well, you're gonna give us that? Well, that doesn't meet our standards for our agency, so you're gonna upgrade that, right, before we take it over. So there's a lot of issues like that we're gonna both be addressing with Rainbow. We had a great meeting. Tim set up the meeting, is kind of leading the charge on this with their staff. Their staff is great. And we've got to roll this into our discussions with Eastern also, because Eastern is our partner on this exchange, and there's going to be costs and improvements that are necessary. So it gets more complicated. I've been talking with Jennifer Pierre, the GM of the state contractors, quite a bit lately. She's doing a lot of advocacy to get certain bills through the legislature. And I need to talk to Director Rizvi about one of those after the meeting today. But SB 872, which is a bill that's going to hopefully fund subsidence fixes for the state water project. Huge issue to get the state to fund those, because without the state, who's going to fund it? You know, there's people that say, oh, well, Metropolitan, you've got half of the rights in the state water project, so you're going to pay half the cost. And then Metropolitan turns around and says, well, subsidence isn't our problem. That's, you know, Ag's problem in the Central Valley's got to fix that. And I think the Ag people are like, well, wait a minute, you can't, you know, pin that on me. State contractors, you need to fix that. And this is going to be ugly. And so this is a bill that would come up with a resolution to that without us all going to court to try and fix it. So she's looking for a lot of support right now. And so much like we were asking for support for SB 72, now she's asking for 872.
This is Caballero?
Yes. No. Caballero has a different bill. Michael's looking it up.
She. I can't hear you. Come to the mic.
Senator McNerney is the bill sponsor. And at least their cost of their bill is $300 million though, so
Is
they
there
got quite a
funding source identified?
general fund.
State general fund.
So hence the need for very strong support for the bill.
Who's gonna tell her it's in a deficit?
Who's going to
It's in a deficit.
She is very well aware.
I also think, to Craig's point, half of it's for subsidence and half of it's for the delta.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So he is a Delta representative from the Delta area, and I think he sees that this is an opportunity to get a little for both the Delta
Sure.
interests and the state contractors. I haven't seen a lot of legislators try and walk this path of, let's take care of both. So,
It's not every day you see Restore the Delta and the state water contractors on a bill
on the,
together.
on the same side of an advocacy issue. So I think it's really good. I mean, it's like another step towards, we gotta put these statewide water wars behind us, because nothing's happening on either side to fix things.
Greg, is this the person whose staffer we met when we went up in Sacramento? Or no, he's a different,
No.
That was,
he was very
Laird.
knowledgeable about
Senator
Delta.
Laird.
he, no,
was the
No, it
staff-
was-
no, he was staff for the chair of, was it
I'll look it up, but
appropriations, but not for, it must have been the
I'll look it up.
the
but-
assembly
Yeah.
appropriations.
Yeah,
look it up. I can't
because
remember off the top of my
he
head.
was very knowledgeable about
Right.
water, and he had a lot of question about Delta, and so
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm remembering the meeting, I can't remember
he
his
Yeah,
name.
we
didn't-
took it in the
me
hallway.
neither.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Rick and I are having a conversation over here. We think it's funded through greenhouse gas.
It was going to be,
Oh,
and then they had to take amendments out of its first committee to not be greenhouse gas reduction fund money anymore. Because the staff from the committee felt that it was more appropriate to that this should be a statewide priority and not funded through the greenhouse gas reduction fund. So that's initially how they were going to pay for it. It would have been an easier path, but.
Yeah, it would have been a lot.
Yeah, but that was one of those moments where a committee had a hold of a bill and said, you need to change this, or the chair of the committee may not favor this bill, so. Politics.
All right, more to come,
More to come.
All right.
more to come. Let's see, when, I was up at Metropolitan, Monday night and Tuesday, to watch, Director Denston work her magic up on the dais up there. But I also took the opportunity to spend a lot of time with other, general managers, had some quality time with Dan Denham, again, from San Diego County Water Authority and Shivaji. We went out to dinner, and those are always great times. We cover the gamut of our own agency issues, water deals, Met deals, state water project deals. So it's really, really good to keep building those relationships. So very, very, very interesting also, because on Monday night, there was one strategy to get the budget through, and by 8:30 on Tuesday morning, Director Denstead is going to tell you more about that when it's her turn. So I'll leave that to her and maybe help her fill in some blanks if she has blanks in there. Upcoming meetings, Executive Committee, 9 a.m. on Monday before our budget workshop would be great. And 10 o'clock is our budget workshop on Monday. We planned those carefully so Director Rizvi's past tax day.
3 hours of sleep.
I'm sure. That's all I have.
And I would like to add a reminder that our next board meeting is May 20th.
That's right. We'll be at Aqua. Yeah. We still have engineering committee on that Monday. Yeah. And, oh, no.
I'm not here either.
Ryan is going to do the water supply update. We all know.
Oh, no.
I know.
We all know.
That sends a clear message.
Something must have happened.
Right out the gate, right out the gate.
Everybody wants to see Josh, I know.
No.
So I'll buzz through it pretty quick. I'm pretty sure I'm going to tell you everything you've already heard over social media and all the news clippings and whatnot. Good morning, President Roden, Board Directors. As always, I hope you're doing well. Northern Sierra and Upper Colorado River Basin precipitation has actually looked pretty good so far this year, 102% and 83%. Relatively speaking. On the contrast, if you look at Sierra and Colorado River Basin snowpack, much lower, as you've heard, 12% and 22% respectively. And I'm sure you've seen these photos, but the record hot, dry March completely wiped out any significant snowpack that we had. leaving no measurable snow, as indicated in these photos. Privilege of
It was snowing while he was doing that. All he was measuring was the snow that fell that day.
So this was on April 1st, so a couple weeks later, but no measurable snowpack. Phillips Station, comparing 2025 to 2026 water content and snow depth. Again, kind of a dire look here, but down to 0% for both of those from compared to 70% from last year. And on the statewide side, water content, similar trend, down to 18% from 96% last year. I'm sorry? Well, I was about to say, I really like this graphic, but maybe I'll pull that one back. So as you can see, the red line, first week of January, we were right there on average compared to historical. Then it kind of teetered off and leveled out through February, down to 61%. And then, of course, we did not get our miracle March that we were hoping for, and it dropped down to 20%. And it's probably varied a little bit. This was back on April 1st. Looking back a little bit further, on the right-hand side, you'll see a graphic that shows the last 4 years in terms of April 1st snow surveys. We had a fantastic 2023, as you can see, and unfortunately, the last 3 years steadily, we've declined all the way back down to 0%. So feels a little bit dire, although we did have rain and snow this past weekend, which is why Josh was supposed to be up here, but maybe next month, we'll see. Just kidding. I'm sure you guys have all seen these before. Pictures speak 1,000 words, but this is Sierra Nevada satellite snowpack visuals over the last 4 months, and you can obviously see all the snowpack evaporating and deteriorating. Let me see if we can do this one. Justin, is that me or you?
Here, but not so much here. Multiple storms shut down a key stretch of I-80 in the Sierra Nevada. Snow totals could surpass 2 feet at the highest elevation.
Josh and I were in Tahoe this weekend, obviously. Just kidding, just kidding. But you could see how drastically things can swing back and forth from just a few days ago to this past weekend. A little bit of good news. I know I'm full of bad news today, but the big 6 mega reservoirs over the past 3 years are still looking really good at about 89% full compared to 76% over historical. So that's really good news, even though the snowpack is basically non-existent. You've probably all seen this one before, but Metropolitan 2026 water supply demand balance, it's about even this year, about 1.45, 1.46 million acre feet. So not a lot of storage up or down one way or another. Lastly, clearly 2026 water supply outlook doesn't look great at the moment, but this past weekend will certainly help, especially if we have a significant dry period, multiple year dry period going forward here. That being said, climate change continues to challenge all water managers. We will need to continue to adapt and be flexible and find ways to capture the earlier runoff from the Sierras, for example, and find ways to increase storage capacity statewide. And with that, happy Earth Day, even though it's next week. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Comments? Mike?
I am hearing that there is a strengthening El Nino. And what's your thought on which way that's going to go?
Flip the coin. No, I've seen the articles too. Super El Nino is what people are putting out there, but I think it's too soon to tell. Correct. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes in an El Nino year, you get a lot of rain.
True. Got to be ready to capture it. That's
Yeah.
right.
And what, with the work that Met is doing to connect our local lake with the west side, how soon is that gonna be in service? Is, wait, we will get by fine for 3 years with essentially no water if that water's not serving the rest of the Met area. If it's serving the rest of the Met area, we won't last as long.
Either way.
Well, so I think the pipeline you're talking about was an Adele Hodge Khalil concept that you would build this big pipeline from Diamond Valley all the way to Callegas and Las
Yeah.
Virgenes. And, everyone could take water from Diamond Valley along the way, or vice versa. You could move, somehow you would, I don't know how this would work, I never understood the concept. You could move water the other direction under certain conditions. That project has never surfaced to the board for
Oh, good.
approval.
Okay.
We've asked for it to be part of the camp process. It's a very expensive project,
8 billion, maybe?
at least 8 billion.
Yeah,
I've seen as high as 17 billion
yeah.
to build that. So it's supposed to be part of the camp evaluation process.
Okay.
But that being said, just like we would do here, if we asked our ops team and our engineering team to figure out ways to move water to a few more areas that don't have access to Colorado River water, our team would figure out some ways to do that. Met's team has done the same. So there's like the Sepulveda pump station and some other things that have helped kind of put Band-Aids on a few of these areas. So it's like an in-between answer. So they haven't done the big project that would really move a lot of water, but they've done these other projects that, are gonna help them if we do get back into a 5% allocation. But it doesn't solve the big problem in a 5% allocation. That is an enormous investment to really fix that. Because Met doesn't have the plumbing to live without state water project water.
That's why, great report. That is why I think what Western has done to be a leader in water policy and management is important. Obviously, SB 72, climate change and the way the climate is behaving is a reason why we need a real plan. And secondly, obviously the historic deal that we just reached with San Diego, where we won't be held to allocation issues for a certain amount of water. We still will, but
I'll
that's
say it differently.
important.
It mitigates our allocation impacts.
It mitigates it, and that's huge, because again, unfortunately, Met and other agencies, right, none of us can predict the weather and how it's gonna turn, but Western has been at the forefront of saying that, of saying we don't know what's gonna happen, we need a plan, and that's exactly why it's so important. We all expected this to be a heavy rain season, and it's not panning out. Just on my birthday, it decided to rain, that's it.
Okay, oh, I did have one, sorry. But anybody else had a comment or question? So I have to preface this by saying this is my anecdotal observation from Facebook, okay? So,
We need the director's comment, after Sarah, since it doesn't get used, Facebook.
well, this
inquiries.
has to do specifically with this, though. So it seems to me this year that I didn't see as much complaining about all the water going to the ocean. And there was still some, but I didn't see it as much on a regular basis. And looking at this chart, I was encouraged to see that even at this time of year, that our reservoirs are this full, in the mid to high 80s, especially being that the snowpack is so low. So I know I think there's a balancing act that they have between how much snow is up in the Sierras and how much they have to release from the storage that we do have. So I'm wondering if our data has gotten just so much better over time that they maybe didn't release as much this year? So they did releases, but how do we still have
So,
80-something?
Ryan will correct me where I'm wrong here, but an enormous amount of water was sent to the ocean in that wet period where Ryan was showing that we got up to average. Because it's early in the snow season.
Right.
They have storage curves in all of those reservoirs that say, oh, we can't get above a certain elevation because we
Yes.
know there's a lot more rain coming, and then we're gonna have summer snow melt. So they have rules on how much storage they can have. Well, they reach those very fast because those January storms were warm storms, and water was falling as rain, not as snow. And so the reservoirs popped right up to those levels. As soon as it hits that level, they stop diverting, or they open the discharges, and they send it out the Golden Gate. And so that's exactly what we're talking about, is we have to develop more storage, because this was the perfect year to show this. It didn't make a lot of headlines that all this water was getting sent out, because everyone's like, hey, reservoirs are full. But the crime is that we're not going to get snow melt the rest of the summer. All that water we would have got from that snow belt already went out the Golden Gate,
Right.
and we didn't capture it. So now you're going to see the reservoirs really drop fast because there's no snow melt augmenting water levels. So the question at Met and with the State Water Project is, what's our initial allocation going to look like in October? Because we're going to have a hot, dry summer most
Right.
likely, and you're going to see water leaving all those reservoirs and no snow melt propping them up. And it's kind of like the ideal example of what hotter, drier climate is going to be. This is it. We got less snowpack, just as much rain, and we don't have facilities to capture the rain.
Okay. So these numbers for this time of year would be pretty typical to see
We-
the reservoirs
the
at 80
scientists-
plus?
The scientists would say, in general, this is more of a typical year that we think we're gonna see as it gets hotter and drier.
Okay.
And our job as water planners and resources is, well, we better figure out a way to replace the storage that happens in snowpack with
Yes.
physical reservoir
Yes.
storage to capture all this water, and that's the heavy lift.
No, and I get that.
That's what's been happening at Colorado, right? And like the snowpack is, every year it's lesser snowpack, and that's what I was reading their report is. That's what they're concerned about, that there is water, but the snowpack is
Yeah.
reducing.
So the other difference between the Colorado system and the state system is that the Colorado system has enormous storage, and it's just not raining or snowing. So, Lake Mead has, I don't know how many millions of acre feet of capacity available right now. It's just really dry. Where California's still getting the hydrology, we don't have the storage. If someone built a big pump that sent it to
Yeah.
Lake Mead, that'd be okay. Or it'd be a lot cheaper just to build more Oroville's and Shastas here.
Okay.
We just gotta get the leadership in the state to make the hard decisions that we're gonna have storage. And, sorry, now I'm off on my platform again, but
Well,
you
darn.
just saw this, that the state board made a ruling on the site's reservoir in their water rights permit, and they kind of, Holland's doing the breakdown of what their ruling actually said, but they cut back on the request from sites to divert water. So they kind of cut it way down because they thought, well, the environmental groups don't want this, and the water supply groups like this. Let's just kind of pick something in the middle.
Know that.
Then everyone's happy. But we gotta get,
Nobody's happy.
we're not
right?
happy.
And
So,
the environmentalists are not
we gotta
happy,
get-
We are not happy.
we gotta get beyond this. And, this trying to find something that makes everybody happy is not working.
We need
Right.
to get everybody water.
It's still a draft. We have until end of May to comment, and BBQ is
Yeah,
coordinating with Met.
the water rights decision is a draft decision.
Right.
And so we have until May to comment, and we'll be orchestrating comments for
You
sure.
betcha. Yeah, strongly worded.
Strongly worded.
Strongly worded
And-
comments.
And, you know, this is another opportunity. I'm sure there'll be a hearing where people can comment in person,
In person?
and there'll be a certain group that'll have people out the door commenting, and there'll be a certain water supply world
Yeah.
that typically doesn't show up in mass to
Needs
comment.
to be in the room.
Needs to be in the room.
Let us know.
Let
I
us
would
Yeah.
love to be a participant.
We'll get that out.
It will probably also be a point of discussion at Aqua, so you'll probably
Oh, for
hear
sure.
about that. For those of you who are attending, you'll probably hear about it.
Well, Ryan, that was a controversial report, Ryan.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Ryan, before you go, I think I saw something about enough water went out the Golden Gate Bridge to fill half of sites if it was built and empty. Is that
No.
roughly accurate?
We can find you the number. It's more, how many times would sites have been filled by the water that went out the Golden Gate
Okay.
Bridge? It was way more than, sites is 1.5 million acre feet.
Right.
I mean, we may have lost that in one day
Okay.
in a really high flow. So we'll get that, but you can only fill sites at a certain,
Yeah.
there'll
Right.
be a modeling calculation of how it would happen, but there's an enormous amount of water that went out. Well,
Yeah,
Ryan,
yeah,
let's
we'll
look that
find it. And as Craig said, this was the perfect year to have more storage
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I guess my hopefulness of the reservoirs at 80-something is not,
That hopeful.
it's a
The-
false,
the-
it's a
no,
false
the-
hope.
The reservoirs are all in the 90%, which is great.
Yeah,
They're literally full. I don't think they would fill them any fuller because their rules say, hey,
Right.
snow melt's
Waiting for
coming
the
all
snow.
summer, but it's not. They should have modified the rules and
Yeah.
actually held more water right now, but that's like a whole nother process.
yeah. I was curious too where that last picture came from with the poppies in the front. Is that,
So beautiful.
is it Diamond? It is Diamond Valley. It is a beautiful picture.
Put it here,
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, it is gorgeous.
That's a beautiful.
put it right here.
Yeah. Anyway, just a comment. Okay, we'll move on to director's comments and requests. First off is SAPA.
And did a couple of things. The first is, they authorized a contract with vendor Larry Walker and Associates for the Santa Ana Basin Monitoring Task Force's Santa Ana River Annual Report. So that will be coming out. It's in preparation now. And then on the SAPA's strategic plan, the consultant interviewed a whole bunch of people, including the SAPA directors, staff. They held one public workshop, talked to all the GMs, and everybody said, you need to talk to more people. And so they said, well, that's not in our budget. So they came back and said, if you bump our budget from roughly 85,000 to 106,000, we can talk to all those people that you recommended, and if you give us an additional, where is that number? $17,345, we can do tribal outreach and a community meeting, a broader community meeting. And the board said, yes, go do all those things. So their budget now has gone from about 85,000 to about 154,000. But it will be a much bigger, broader outreach, and I think a better report when we're done. So that was it for SAPA.
All right, thank you. And Metropolitan, drum roll.
It was very interesting. So, kudos to Met staff for starting this process off so early. All the budgets that I've been a part of to this point have been very contentious and a lot of arguing back and forth. This one was a lot less of that and a lot more moving deals. To Craig's point, we thought we had a deal Monday. By Tuesday morning at 8:30, the deal was different. And it was a little different. There was some pivots, and then there was another zinger thrown in at the end on the islands that nobody talked about, expected, or anything else. And so FAME, which is the finance committee that had this discussion, Marty Miller from San Diego Water Authority is the chair of that, who made a motion and added at the very end of it that kind of threw everybody was he wanted to have staff sell 2 of the Delta Islands. Metropolitan owns 4 islands up in the Delta, and that was kind of an interesting one. It ended up getting modified again, and it turned out, for staff to do a market analysis and kind of do some, information gathering on that, and then bring it back to the board for some discussion and some things. At the end of the day, after all of the hallway conversations and the side meeting over here and the agreements and conversations, are you good, and that generally is within our own caucus. We're not communicating with the whole board at that point. Our caucuses are getting together, so we're going, okay, is this an agreement that we can live with and jointly support as a caucus to make sure that when we vote, we're all on the same page. So ultimately, the motion had to be written out for all of the amendments and changes, and it turned into a 3-page motion that had to be done. So you can see all the red lines, okay? So I brought the actual stuff that was all presented to us at the dais for what had to be reread into the record for what the options were and the amendments and all of the things. So at the end of the day, it was adopted unanimously. So the vote was, and I think we were only missing 2 delegates that weren't there and present that did not participate. So the vote for the budget passed with 98.92%, which is huge. That's just huge, because it hasn't been that way in the past. So at the end of the day, a budget that was adopted was just over $3.6 billion. The CIP was changed to $1.025 billion. The funding for the 45 MGD Pure Water planning and final design costs, there was a lot of grant money that was brought in for this program. And at the end of the day, the agreements that were reached were that, yes, we'll use the grant money and MET will fund at its required levels and do all the things that needed to happen in order to make that final design come out. There is an authorization in order to meet that. There was an authorization for a one-time draw of unrestricted reserves in fiscal year 27-28. So it's not in the first year of the budget, it will be in the second year budget, not to exceed $58 million and appropriate for pure water final design and for unrestricted, and if unrestricted reserves fall below the minimum, then the item will be returned to the board. So the discussion will become, was any money additionally tapped? Because there is a policy, just like we have here, we have a minimum and a maximum in the range that we try to stay in for the estimated reserves on there. And then there were a couple of other moves and shakes. The other thing that came out of it was the project will undergo the Camp for Water evaluation and treatment studies process at year end to assist the board in implementation decisions. So at the end of the day, while we're continuing forward with some of the elements of design and some of the factors with pure water to utilize the grant money, what's been received. The decision ultimately to build it has not been decided. That has not come before the board, and it's not been voted on. So we want the process that's now been going for almost 4 years, Camp for Water? Two? I'm
A little over 2.
yeah. So none of the projects yet have moved through that process for the evaluation criteria to say, on these big projects, sites, Delta Conveyance, subsidence, East-West Pipeline that was discussed earlier, and Pure Water, which are billion-dollar projects over multiple years of making decisions. None of these have been through the Camp for Water process to evaluate them, to say, this is the one that rises to the top, and this is the one that we should focus on. So that's supposed to happen by year end. I don't know if General Manager is optimistic about that goal being met, since he's on the Camp for Water.
Well, I think there's consensus up at MET amongst the staff and the general managers that camp needs to change a little bit. It hasn't made good progress. Nothing has come out of camp. I personally have been trying for literally 2 years to get the team at Metropolitan to analyze groups of projects, portfolios of projects, because one project doesn't solve the problems. It's going to take a series of capital investment over a long period of time. And we should be looking at that group of projects to solve Met's biggest problems and build the resiliency that we need. So far, what's been frustrating is the camp process has always kind of come back to evaluating Pure Water. And Pure Water alone doesn't solve Met's biggest problems,
Right.
especially right now.
Right.
So that's just caused a lot of stalling, delaying, and I think there's a lot of Met board members who are losing confidence in the camp process. And so we need to change it and restore the confidence and do some good planning work. And so that's got to happen. Now, is it going to happen by August? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know Shivaji's very engaged in it, but there's some changes that need to happen to change the direction of it.
Yes. So that's kind of where we sit with that process. So we'll see how that all shakes out by the end of the year. And ultimately, what it really came down to is, and then the other big thing that happened that we wanted to make sure that we really landed on was the fact of the AV, the ad valorem taxes that are collected. If you recall, we went through a process and we upped it to .007, 2 years ago? Yeah, that was 2 years ago. It's still, so the ad valorem taxes that are collected are to pay for the fixed costs for a state water project. There was still a huge millions of dollars gap between what we are collecting and what we actually put out of pocket. And so the big discussion was, how are we going to then manage fixed costs? So the deal that basically came to fruition at this point and was adopted, of course, we will take final action on the AV adoption in August when that comes forward for the tax rolls. But it now increased to .0085. So thereby closing the gap even more for the fixed state water project. There's still funding gap. There's still room. There's still room to move on that. But at the end of the day, what this deal afforded us was doing and approving water rates and charges effective January 1st of next year, and we're staying at 6.2%, which is well within the acceptable range because it started off way higher than that at the very beginning of the budget discussions, and it was a double-digit figure that we weren't happy about at all. So at the end of the day, I think we're certainly not thrilled with how it shook out, but we certainly can live with it. And it was an acceptable compromise all the way across. You know, everybody walked away with kind of being a little unhappy about certain things. But at the end of the day, we all came to a consensus, which was great. And we held the line at an increase that we could live with, and I think that we kind of predicted in our rate structure for our pass-throughs on our budget side. It was at least within our modeling and what we had anticipated, so. 6.2 is what the increase is, so a lot better than where we started. Yeah, a lot better. So that was kind of interesting, the process, and at the end of the day, I was really surprised that the board meeting didn't go for longer. So I'm glad that nobody tried to pull elements out and renegotiate at the board on the floor once the motion was made, and that was a pleasant surprise. So I'm glad it kind of all played out that way.
Can I add a little bit?
Sure.
So I think maybe to put some more big picture context in it, Western was pushing really hard with San Diego and MODOC and Eastern for what they called option one. There were two options that went to the finance committee. And option one was the option that was moved by the chair. So we were really happy about that.
Yes.
The kind of negotiations that happened prior to the meeting were to move reserves into that recommendation to fund more of Pure Water to maximize grants, that federal grants that Senator Padilla was instrumental in getting. That wasn't part of option one. So that 58 million that came out of reserves was not part of the option one plan.
Right.
So option two was to fund, basically everything was the same except fund more Pure Water. And so that movement of reserves moved option one a lot closer to option two. But because we're taking the money out of reserves to do that, rather than a rate increase to generate that revenue, we still maintained the 6.2% increase from the prior year to this next year.
Yes.
So that was an objective of ours, to maintain the 6.2%. So director's talking about, a lot of the inside baseball. Fundamentally, we really got the option that we've been working hard to
Yes.
get. So I think for all of our service area, it was a major success. Could we have made it a little bit better? Sure. But you got to get 38 board members to all vote. And they all, 36 of the 38 all voted, 2 weren't there. So I think it was a huge success and a lot of hard work by our staff. I know Rick has just really been engaged the whole time. We've done a lot of work with our member agencies, and once again, our caucus plus others really held together well. And, I think that we're really happy with the way that this moved through the MET process and the board all standing up unanimously
Yeah.
and voting on a budget. And the budget it still met the objectives of the MET staff. They needed to increase headcount and capital budget pretty significantly. And so it accomplished all those things. So I think it was a really good approval.
Absolutely. And then the only other thing that, like I said, that was not part of either option was the Delta Islands discussion, and that kind of got thrown in as a, hey, look into this, bring it back to us for discussion once we get some information and so it'll come back to us for a review of whatever information that they've done on this market study to figure it out and do all the things that they need to do. So there's, other things to talk about, and it just kind of kicked the can down the road for the discussion later. So all in all, it was only a 4,000-page agenda.
So the islands, it's not a requirement. It was voted in part of the budget process, but they're going to study it.
Yeah,
and then
so
decide
the
if it's
actual language directs staff to conduct a market study for the sale of 2 islands and bring back that study to the board for review, is what the actual language is.
Okay.
That was
That
redlined
seems fair.
in my 3-page version.
Your 3-page of your 4,000?
Right, my 3 pages, yeah, they cut it down to 3 pages out of our 4,000-page agenda. So there you go. That was obviously the big talk, and now we just kind of move forward with some of the other things that we need to do and figuring out, the other big thing that's come into play is Colorado River negotiations and discussions and, lawsuits and all the kinds of things that are gonna happen with that. That is still very much at the forefront, and I think it's gonna be a critical item that we look forward to having more discussions about in the coming months, for sure, as that all plays out with negotiations and all the things that are going on. So I think that's kind of the highlights of everything that we've got.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
One quick question,
Mhm.
if I can. Do you have a dollar value for the ad valorem tax increase from the .007 to .0085?
yeah, I do, I have it in a slide.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it in a slide
I-
somewhere on a presentation.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It's a bigger number than you would think from that tiny fraction.
No, it's hundreds of millions of
Yeah.
dollars, yeah. No. Do you
It
remember what the
generates,
number
it
is?
generates 500 million.
Yeah, we're currently at the 7 level, is in the 400 million range. This puts it into the 500 million range. I don't have the exact numbers off the top
Yeah,
of my head.
no, I've got a slide on it somewhere I can pull up
And
from my.
it's roughly $7 a year for a typical household in Southern
And
California.
I think, and I think the max is maybe shy of 700 million of fixed costs on the state water
Yeah.
project.
Yes,
So we haven't hit the ceiling yet. There's still a
there's
little
still
gap.
room, yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Chino Basin Water Master.
Meets in 2 weeks.
Okay, and how about CDA?
CDA did meet. The big thing was they adopted their fiscal 26-27 annual budget. There are no surprises there, very slight increases. And the other one worth talking about, they have to reconcile their expenditures versus what they collect every year. They did that, and there's a refund. They overcollected this year from what they needed. 671,000 in surplus funds go back to the member agencies. 4 million is gonna go into reserves. And there was 3.5 million of Metropolitan Water District Local Resource Program credits, which are distributed to the member agencies. None of that comes to us, unfortunately, but it's good for the other member agencies. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. I seem to recall on the surplus funds that the agencies can elect whether to take those or pay them toward the next year.
Yeah,
Yes.
Get a reimbursement or leave them there to help pay
Right.
for the following year.
But they don't collect any interest if they
Oh.
leave it there to pay for the following year. So surprisingly, they all say, give me my money.
Okay. All right. Let's see, how about RICRA? Tomorrow. Okay. And WRCOG.
Yes, WRCOG, we did have a couple of things. So we did enter into labor negotiations and a public employment appointment. So we have appointed as the interim executive director, Chris Gray has been appointed for that role. So he will be serving in that capacity as we move forward and figure out what our next steps are. There was a lot of TUMP stuff, which I won't bore you with because it doesn't affect our agency, but, a lot of the cities are dealing with TUMP and, some of the changing in structures with the funding agreements on that and, reimbursements, and doing all those things. But the other thing that was also big to deal with was the fact of we needed to do some updates on personnel policies, and there were 5 big policies that came before us, and we had to do some corrections and some adjustments on. And it had to do with employee leave for military leave, catastrophic voluntary time bank programs. Some of it was languages that are just cleanups to comply with, new regulations and new things that were going on. And then we had to deal with some paid time off, holiday, and family medical leave and pregnancy, disability, and those types of things. There was also a budget amendment that was approved appropriating $450,000 from the general fund to balance the fund, the one-time leave cash outs associated with implementing the paid time off policy, and authorize the executive director to make all of those necessary adjustments. We found out these were obviously the very big ones, but in reviewing and going through the entire policy manual now, because that's kind of what we had to do, and I stood up a ad hoc committee to take that responsibility on. We have 87 more to look at.
Oh.
So hopefully some of it will be very easy, and it's just a matter of complying with, there's no discussion of what we're going to do, it's just to be in compliance with changing, rules and regulations that have to do with, HR and a variety of different things. And we can then say we're updated and close the books on that. So I'll keep you posted as we progress. Right.
No, she isn't, apparently.
So, yeah. And that is all I have to report.
Okay, and I know Sarah's only quarterly, so. Oh, in May for a special meeting. Do you know the date of that by chance?
Let me see.
That's okay.
It's on my calendar.
I'll get it from you later.
It's on this calendar.
Oh, perfect. Okay, it's already on there, thank you. Okay, how about Aqua?
Aqua, we have conference coming up here in a couple of weeks, so everybody come to Sacramento for Aqua Conference. It'll be the first week of May, so we'll have lots to hear about. I think Craig is getting his program ready.
We got finally approved to
Oh,
do our
good.
program.
Okay.
So we will have a program on updating the California Water Plan on Thursday morning, first session, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning, or 9:30, I'm not sure what it is. So Thursday morning.
Okay, so that's good to know. And then we do have our Region 9 program that we have slotted the date of July 17th. It's a Friday at Wilson Creek. So we'll be doing that program, and more to come on the elements of that program, because we're still kind of putting some speakers together and seeing who's available and who can attend. So that'll kind of land us on making sure we've got the right topics, because we're still adjusting that program a little bit. So more to come on that.
I'm sorry,
then-
did you give a date for that?
July 17th.
Okay.
July 17th, and it'll be at least through lunch. It'll start in the morning and go through lunch. We're also trying to see if we might have an opportunity to do a little bit of a tour in the morning of Wilson Creek, and perhaps some of their water savings and things that they do, to look at that. So we'll keep you posted on that possibility, and we'd rather do it, I think, early in the morning than, because
Oh,
July
July.
might be a little warm out there in wine country, so I'll keep you posted on that. And then I understand, rumor has it that they're closer to making a decision on hiring an executive director
Oh.
for Aqua, and that there's potentially 2 finalists.
That's good to know.
So we'll keep you posted on that as I hear more. And that's all I have for Aqua.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to director's comments. Director Torres, do you want to start?
No comments this time
Okay.
around.
Director Risby?
I just wanted to clarify that the meeting Tuesday, May 12th for SORA is a regular board meeting, it's not a special meeting.
Okay, so that's the one you go to,
Yes.
right? Okay, and I'm
Now
sorry.
you're gonna be going because you wanna go, or you can attend online as an alternate?
May 12th,
12th.
did you say?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I will probably try to go to that, so, just because I haven't been to one in person yet. They do have a Zoom option, or no? They do. No, okay, I'll thank you. Is that your only comment?
Yes.
Okay, all right, Director Gardner?
Couple of things. One is a question, I don't know if people have the answer at their fingertips, but it comes out of the SB 872 discussion. Do we have a calculation on how much subsidence has restricted capability of the
Well,
state water project?
yeah, we'll have to do some research on that.
Okay.
I think the contractors do, state contractors do.
Yeah,
So
I
we have
just,
to find
I'm just curious what that percentage is.
Yeah.
I know it's noticeable, but I don't know if it's 20% or 40% or. The other is, for anybody who hasn't heard, Riverside City Manager Mike Futrell is leaving and becoming the city manager for the city of Pasadena.
Oh.
That got announced this morning. And Director Torres had a birthday. Happy birthday.
Birthday. Okay, Director Denstedt?
Yes, just a couple of things. The Fireman's Barbecue for Marietta, it is the second longest running event in Riverside County behind the Date Festival.
Wow.
And it is this Saturday, so I welcome you to come out. They put on a heck of a barbecue and they cook some great meat out there. So it's a good time had by all. It's a big event for the city. So I will be in attendance at that over the weekend. And there was one other thing, and now it has slipped my mind. If I remember it, I'll come back to it, but.
Enjoy whatever it is.
Yeah, I know, right? So it'll come to me.
Probably in the middle of the night. No, I'm just kidding. It might come to you. Okay, whoops. Okay. Okay, so I do have a few comments. First of all, I wanted to thank staff and management and Director Denstedt for the work that went into our option suggestions for the budget at Met. That was no easy task, and it was done over time and a lot of thought and a lot of hours and a lot of conferencing and negotiating, and I don't ever remember, like 2 years ago, I was trying to think back to the, when you all went through that, and I just don't remember that it was as intricate as this year's was. And I think obviously it paid off because we were able to make suggestions and they were heard, and yes, there were some compromises, but it's very impressive. And I feel like our stature at Met has done nothing but grow and become more and more effective in our role as a member there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you. I did tune in to Wade Crowfoot's speaker series, and that was amazing that there were over 500 at the beginning. They said, like, there's 200 and something participants, and then all of a sudden, there's 500 participants. I was like, oh my gosh. So I think because I registered for that one, I think I'm on a list now to get those, which is fine. They talk about water, so should be interesting. And so I just want to mention that. And then I attended my first, I always want to say this name in a really funny way, but I'll try not to. I feel like saying, It is the Association of Women in Water, Energy, and Environment. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and Western is a member of that. And I actually learned about it first from my daughter, who works for San Diego Community Power down in San Diego. And she said, Mom, do you know about this group? Because I think you guys are a member. And I was like, I'm going to find out. So they had they offer all kinds of workshops. Some are online, some are in person. They have field trips such as the one that I attended last week at the Paris 2 desalter at Eastern Municipal Water District. And so there were people there from all over, and yes, mainly more from our region for something like that because of the drive. But it was really interesting, and got to hear a little more about their group, kind of get a feel for it. And I do receive their emails, like newsletters and announcements of events. So I would suggest Tammy, I'm sure, can put you on that list if you're interested in that. But just wanted to share that I did attend that, and I really enjoyed it. And let's see, and then I also attended, which I know it really isn't water related, but it is related to having fun. So I don't think I mentioned this the last time. I went to the new Ontario Stadium, which is home of the Tower Buzzers Dodger minor league baseball team. And it was a super fun game. I went on the second night. We went as my husband and I, my son and my sister-in-law, had a great time. I highly recommend it. The facility is beautiful. They have all kinds of different things to eat there. And of course, they have a gift shop, which I love. And got a really cool inaugural weekend sweatshirt. But just to put it on your radar, I think they'll be having other events there besides baseball. But I will just give you a little heads up that when you do your tickets, I might have said that. I know I shared this with somebody, but when you do your tickets, you go through an app. And so now I'm getting every night all the stats of the game and who's doing what and who's making a home run and who struck out and all. And it's just been kind of fun to watch.
How were the
so.
fireworks?
Good.
Yeah?
Really good, actually.
Eric puts them on.
Oh,
My
really?
husband, yeah, he puts them on.
Oh, my gosh.
so-
Oh, I didn't know that. And I
Mhm.
think they're doing them every Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like
They
that.
called it Friday Fireworks, and we were there on Friday.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it's every Friday or if it was just that inaugural
He's
weekend.
been gone more than that, so hopefully
But,
it's, I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Well, that weekend, I think they did them Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday, I'm not
Probably.
sure. But, yeah,
were
it
good.
was a really good fireworks show, actually. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I think that was it. I did have one question. Can we, are the advisory committees for SB 72 going to be online at all to be able to be watched?
There are public meetings. I think they're all going to be available. You can go in person or you can watch it.
Okay.
The state
Can-
requirements, they form this committee, it has to follow their equivalent of Brown Act.
Okay. So can we get the link to how
Yes.
we would
Yeah.
find out when those are and
Yeah.
get on those if we so chose? I think that, let me just make sure. I think that was it.
I remembered what I.
Okay, good. See, I talked long enough.
Woohoo, okay. Just wanted to let my colleagues know, if I haven't mentioned this before, so for my Met trip this year, it'll be State Water Project trip, so we'll be going up north. And I'm going to be partnering with my colleague over at Eastern, so Phil Pauling and I will be taking and sharing the trip this year. And we're looking at dates probably in November, so it'll be after cycle, when we finish election stuff. So we can try to get all of that done, and we'll be looking for an available date. So Michael will be communicating with his counterpart over at Eastern so that we can put that paperwork in, because it's really important that we submit it right when it comes out so we can get the date that we want. But if you are at all interested in attending that trip and haven't gone yet, certainly let Tammy know, so that we can start moving and shaking on that and trying to figure it out. And if you also have other people that you are interested in putting their name forward and sharing that, please provide that to us. Send it to Tammy so we can try to see where they fall on the list and make sure that we get, I'd love to have a nice mix on there. I want to get people from the business community, from the chambers, from, educators,
What about
activists.
city council people?
Yes, city council people,
That's good.
all the time. So, because we really want people to understand and see the whole process up there, and it's a very different environment. And once you get to look at it and tour it, you kind of get your head wrapped around it. And subsidence is definitely something that's discussed at the State Water Project trip. So you can actually see, and you can see it sinking. So, so I just wanted to make sure that that was all on your radar interest, so you can start thinking about that. You've got a little bit of time, because I think they just talked about how they're going to be sending packets out really soon. So hopefully, as soon as I get that, I'll be launching it over to Michael so that you guys can start coordinating things. But just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. And
Okay.
don't you have a day trip this month?
Yes, I do. I have a day trip that's on the 30, is it the 30th?
35th?
30th.
There's no 31.
No. So, yes, I'm sharing that trip with Lois Fong Sakai, who's from San Diego Water Authority. So we'll be doing that tour. So you are certainly welcome. Have we done any? Is it closed? Okay, it's closed. All right. So if you didn't sign up for it, I'm sorry, but we'll be doing that.
Where are you touring?
Diamond Valley.
Skinner.
Yeah.
Skinner.
Yeah. We're looking at those. Yeah. So,
Let's take a day trip.
Okay. All right, I think that was all the director comments, and any requests for future agenda items?
No,
Craig has one?
No, after you're done with this, I have a lot of requests for future agenda items, but I have one more thing to add.
Oh, okay. Okay, I don't see any future agenda items, so one more thing to add.
I forgot in my Met report, and directors, you should be proud of this, but we did have 3 public comments at the Met board meeting from WRCOG, the Riverside Chamber, and the Monday Morning Group. All made very positive comments about supporting option 1, which we should be very thankful for our community leaders and the leaders of those organizations that took their time to wait in line on the phone to make those comments. So
That's awesome.
good work by you guys to get other people engaged in water
Yeah.
issues.
Yes. We had 13 public comments yesterday on the phone line, and then there were 2 in the room, so.
Cool.
So, yeah, and it could have been a lot worse, as it has been in the
Oh, for the
past,
budget.
were you
Yeah.
sit, there were 60 public comments,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Oh.
okay.
Another testament to how the process was rolled out this time, I think.
Yes,
That's awesome.
I think so too.
Okay, we are going to move into closed session. Holland, do you move us into that, or does Brad, or?
I sure
Holland?
can. So at this time, the Board of Directors for West Municipal Water District will go into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6 and 54956.9D4. Thank you.
Okay, So we are back from closed session, and Mr. Neufeld, are you going to report out for us?
Yes, Madam President. I'm pleased to report that in closed session, the board unanimously approved both a new 5-year MOU with the Western Municipal Water District Employees Association and a new 5-year COU with the Management, Professional, and Confidential Employee Group.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. And Holland, Mr. Stewart, would you report from
Betcha.
our
Thank you, President
other
Roden.
closed session?
The board met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, so Section D4, and there was no reportable action taken.
Okay. All right, with that, we do have one information item, the investment report for February 2026. And our next meeting, because we will be dark, the first meeting in May, the next meeting will be Wednesday, May 20th, right here at 9:30. And with that, we're adjourned at 11:47.